Text classification is a very common task in NLP, where the general setup is that we have some kind of document. This can be a single sentence, this can be a paragraph or a whole book or a whole corpus. And we want to know to which kind of class, either class 1, class 2, to class n, we want to assign this document. And the set of classes obviously depend on the application that we have in mind. And here just a couple of examples. For example, in case of language detection, we want to know to which language a document belongs. Very common task is spam detection. We want to know if a message that we get via email is genuine or is considered spam. Sometimes we have very large corpora that we want to kind of organize according to some system. And here in this case, we want to predict, for example, the subject or a genre of a text document. The idea of authorship attribution is that we try to predict in case we have a text document where we don't know the author, or maybe the authorship is put in question, can we predict the author of a text document? And lastly, sentiment analysis. Of course, very well known that given a text document, we want to identify if this document expresses some kind of sentiment in terms of positive, negative, neutral, or some kind of mixed sentiment. To give a couple more concrete examples, say here Google Translate performs language detection, right? So if you copy any kind of text in this form field, then Google Translate often tries to detect the source language automatically. This can be quite easy if we assume that a language has very unique alphabets or characters. Then there's usually no challenge in predicting language. But this can be much more tricky if you, for example, have closely related languages. So, for example, English and German are quite related, and particularly when a text is very short. Then this task might be not as trivial as you might think. Here again, example for spam detection, which is basically now applied by any kind of email provider, where if you get an email that the system will decide, okay, this is a genuine email that we want to show the user, or we should flag this as spam and categorize it accordingly. And spam is actually a big problem because in many cases, okay, it's just annoying because most of the time it's just ads. Like, for example, you have text like, 100% off. These kind of things. It kind of indicate, okay, these kind of catchy or eye-catching texts are more likely to be spam. But of course, more problematic are security risks, where you get phishing emails that try to elicit any kind of login information, or emails with malicious attachments, like, for example, viruses. Here an example for subject classification. Again, here we assume we have a large text corpus, in this case a large corpus of scientific publications, and we kind of want to organize them according to a set of categories. So, and given the size of the corpus, doing this manually would be too tedious, so we try to do this in an automatic way using text classification. So here, for example, what we would like to do is to have this paper, and the system, for example, would read this abstract or the whole document and would say, okay, this paper should be classified as crowdsourcing. Here, a concrete example for authorship attribution, which can be very interesting, particularly for historical documents where we don't know the author, or maybe a pseudonym was used, or maybe the authorship is put into question. And the underlying assumption here is that people have a unique writing style. This can mean that some people use specific words or specific phrases more frequently, or they prefer short or long sentences, or even they make very distinct typos in their writing quite commonly. So all these kind of features, how you can describe a writing style, is typically very unique to individual people. And based on this assumption, what we can do is we can give the system a text, the text analyzes the text, and tries to predict, okay, who is the most likely author given this text. As a last example, let's have a look at sentiment analysis, where the idea is to predict an author's subjective or emotional attitude towards a central topic of a text. And this is commonly applied to online content, particularly to user-generated content, because nowadays it's quite common that users online share their opinion about certain products, services, or brands in general. And of course, companies would like to use this information as some kind of consumer feedback to identify if the users are generally happy with their brand, their products, or their services. And here are just two examples. In this case, we have here a hotel review. And here we have a movie review. And just by eyeballing, for example, hotel review, you can kind of see the idea that we have words like great or loved and maybe shout out that kind of indicate the sentiment of such a review.